Welcome to DyadicPod. This is Mike. We have Art is not here today, but I'm going to do a special podcast, and we're going to talk about MS, multiple sclerosis, and I'm going to tell you my story. Um, November 22nd, 2022, I had a incident where I was walking. I like to walk, so I was walking um, one day, and I probably got to about 6 miles. And when I got to the 6 mile, I couldn't lift my right leg. It was like dragging. It was dragging pretty bad, and it was scary. So I thought, man, I better call my doctor. And I finally, got in, and my doctor told me that she said, well, we'll have a knee doctor to check you out. Well, the knee doctor came, and he said, no, it's not your knee. He said, I'm going to send you to a back specialist. So I went to a back specialist, and sure enough, he said it wasn't your back. Um, so the back specialist said, I want you to go to a neurologist. And we went to a neurologist, and lo and behold, it was a neurology condition, neurology. But I didn't really understand what was going on, and um, I had a couple of more incidents where my foot I was having trouble with it. And so I called the neurologist after I had the initial consultation. I said, look, I can't even stand. Half the time I'm about to fall because my right foot just doesn't want to respond. And he said, well, look here, this is what I want you to do is go to the ER right now, and I'm going to call them. So when you get there, they'll know what to do. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? But he did, and I went, and sure enough, I was there for 5 days, really. And they ran a battery of tests, blood tests, MRIs. They even did a spinal tap. A lot of people know that's a big needle they stick into your spine, and they draw spinal fluid. But while I was waiting, they pumped me up with steroids because I guess that's the first line of defense with MS. They pump you full of steroids, and that makes you better, you know. Um, but it was two or three, four doctors really coming in and out and in and out. And it's like, hey, this one doctor, I remember him saying, you have MS. And I was like, what the hell is MS? But he explained it to me. And I said, well, that's a woman's disease, and that's a white disease anyway. He said, no, you have MS. And I said, well, all the blood tests are not back yet. He said, I don't care. I'm telling you now, you have MS. So then my personal doctor came in. I said, look, man, I got to get out the hospital. This, Thanksgiving Day, I got to go. He said, yeah, we're going to try to get you out there. We're trying to run, get all the tests back. So turns out that he did discharge me on Thanksgiving Day. So I was able to go home and spend Thanksgiving with the family. But later I started thinking, I got angry and I got scared because when you get diagnosed with something that's, there's no cure for MS. So you go through all these emotions, and I'm no different than anybody else. I went through the same, you know, but in the end, I became humble. I was like, okay, I can't do anything about it, but I can, try to live with it, and that's what I'm doing. Um, so I'm fighting. I'm fighting it. I still have incidents. I have what's called relapsing and remitting. So I go into remission for a little bit, and then I'll relapse, and I'll have an incident. Um, so there's a lot of not. There's a lot of parts to MS. You have weakness of the limbs. You get tired real easy. Um, you have, like, the other couple of weeks ago, I had this stabbing pain in the back of my eye, and that's part of what's called optic neuritis. and you can't see. I remember a few months ago, I was telling my wife that I can't even drive anymore because I can't trust my eyes. I can't see, but that was all part of the MS. Now that now that I know what I didn't know then. So I have dizzy spells. Of course, I'm on a disease modifying therapy, which basically is just a pill. I take 2 pills a day. And one of them is to help with my walking, which it does. It does a pretty good job. And then the other one is just to eliminate or minimize the relapses. So that pill I take twice. I take both of them twice a day. But the the one that just minimizes the relapses, they say you shouldn't feel anything. It's just a pill that I take twice a day, and it's like, damn, is this thing doing anything? But the doctor say that's what it's supposed to do. So, and this medicine is not cheap. I'm paying roughly $150 a month because they only dispense it in 30 days. So, $150 a month, and for the rest of my life, basically. So, with my story, I hope to reach out to other people that may be having things that they don't understand, things that may be going down that line and you don't know it. Because I suspect, after a lot of research and some records, I suspect I've been dealing with MS for 30 years. And the last incident was, I guess that was just when it came to a head. Because they saw white spots on my brain when I was doing another procedure. And that was like 20 years ago. And I remember the doctor telling me, man, your brain is like the 80-year-old brain. You got a lot of spots up there. And the spots are really called lesions. And that's the definition of MS is multiple sclerosis, which means multiple or many scars. Sclerosis means scars, and multiple means many. So, and I chose to not go back because I just didn't want to deal with it at that time because I was dealing with some other brain issues. So right now, my life is just kind of stable because I'm taking the disease modifying therapy, the pills, and I try to watch what I eat. I mean, if people know me, you can tell that I've kind of lost a lot of weight, and you know, that's not anything that's new. I mean, I'm purposely eating a healthy diet because that can help um, combat the MS. So I'm on a plant-based diet, and I fast a lot, and I don't do a lot of junk food these days. So I've slimmed maybe 25 pounds in the last 3 months. Um, but I do want to read you something, just so you know, like me, when they told me, I said, this is a white folks disease. It's not a black disease, and it's a woman's disease. So what I do want to do is read you this thing that I pulled up and see what you think. So, multiple sclerosis in the black community. Experts used to believe that MS mostly affected white people, particularly particularly those of European descent. However, research indicates that more black people have the disease than previously thought. Research also shows that MS may affect black people differently than it does white people. If you are a member of this community, you may face more aggressive progression and greater disability. Scientists do not know the reason for these differences yet. Black people are underrepresented in research, making it harder to find answers. If you'd like to help researchers address this disparity, then you can sign up to the National American MS Registry if you think you have MS. But for now, uh, let me tell you that if you ignore these crazy symptoms. Sometimes they just not explainable. But if you just ignore them, and if you ignore them, then you may be dealing with something that potentially could, MS could be fatal, in certain points. And I can tell you, back in the day, I met this girl. She was a white female. I met her in Vegas. Her name was Molly, and she was a really nice. I mean, she was a nice person. And I met her. She was in a wheelchair, and we kind of hit it off. We started talking. And I said, hey, so why don't we just keep in touch? And that was back when, cell phones didn't exist. So we decided that we would write each other. So she wrote me a letter, then I wrote her a letter, then she wrote me. And then the last letter I got was from her mother. Her mother told me that Molly would want you to know that she had passed on. I guess the MS got the best of her. At the time, I didn't understand MS. I just like, okay, I didn't know. But now that I have MS, which is coincidental, I'm starting to research and starting to read, and MS can be fatal. So disease modifying therapy is the first line of defense besides steroids. Steroids are like when you first have an incident, they can get you right with steroids. But I just wanted to share my story, and it's important that I reach out to all people that even the black community, because like I said, I never thought that it was a black disease. Because if you look at where multiple sclerosis comes from, the continent of Africa, there is no signs of MS. But there have been talk about the race mixing, and because my DNA says I have 5% European DNA, so maybe I don't know. They just haven't figured it out yet, but. Uh, I, I just want you to know, like, I get dizzy a lot. I get headaches a lot. My eyes bother me. My legs is the main thing. It's like I just can't move this leg, and they've recommended I use a cane, but I'm not that old yet. I don't think so. This is just my story. I'm no expert. I'm no doctor or a disclaimer. I just wanted to share my story. So until next time, this is Mike from DyadicPod, DyadicPod at gmail.com. You can drop me some feedback. You can drop me questions, and I'll answer them. So again, this is DyadicPod. Thanks for sharing your day with me.